All right, hello, welcome to the Modern Thought Room. My name is Jethro. This episode is actually one of my favorite episodes already, and that's saying a lot given that I pre-record episodes, right? So it's going to be one of my favorite episodes just because of what it's talking about. We're going to talking about folks that like to go on tangents, right? So if you're somebody that thinks like, man, I can't stand when people do that, you might want to stay tuned because there's a lot that you're missing out on, that just one or two conversations where you actually sit and listen to that person that's going on a tangent might unlock something for you and might give you a leg up or an advantage in some context, right? Please stay tuned. So, if I were to give this a title that was less kind of gimmicky than the stuff that you're required to do on thumbnails and episode titles, really, this is about how opportunity lives in the tangent, and taking the time to listen to tangents and even go on them yourself will unlock things and shine light on opportunity. All right. So there's a tangent. We can think about the conventional person that rambles. There's also the mathematical tangent, which is something I'm still working on behind the scenes. It's still being cooked, and I haven't finished it yet, so I'm not bringing it out yet. But I do have a little bit of a math background, and there's a argument I want to make about the actual mathematical tangent line, but that's still being cooked, right? So we talk about mostly the rambler, right? The rambler starts in one place. The person that goes on a tangent, they start in one place and they go and meander everywhere and everywhere and everywhere and everywhere and everywhere. What are they doing most of the time in that case? Most of the time, they're going from detail to offshoot to detail to offshoot, and they're all actually very much connected from where they started to the zigzag they took you along, and where they're going and where even you might interrupt them at. It's all still connected to where they began. Now, why is that important? That is important because they are excavating and identifying trailways and pathways that a keen eye or keen ear could listen and find where to make an intervention or bring something to life that can ultimately bring a very good benefit, right? They're uncovering territory that the linear mind is often ignoring. And that's why it's important when you're listening, right? And you're focusing in on things that somebody that's rambling. And when I say rambler, like, it's not just somebody that's just blindly rambling. It might be somebody with some type of background. Even somebody that's not type of background, the best you could probably learn is maybe, something. Let me not say that. Let me actually not limit them. Um, you can learn anything. You can learn something that can help you start a business. You can learn something that can help you fix relationships. You can help something that can help you get ahead in the workplace. So there's a lot. I'm not going to limit those ramblers, right? So they're meandering, they're setting context, and they're also consequence mapping. The consequence mapping that they're doing is indirect in comparison to the person that speaks or communicates in a linear way. Linear means you need to show that consequence clearly in order for the person to follow and be able to kind of understand, right? And that's what people demand, because for the most part, on average, folks don't have the necessary bandwidth and aren't always willing to make that bandwidth available to have to follow along. Get to the point, let me know what I need to know so that I can move forward. And that's great. I'm not saying that's wrong. And that's the thing I probably do a lot, is say, hey, I don't got a problem with it. Hey, I don't have a problem with it. If that's how you operate, that's how you operate. At the same time, if you do increase your bandwidth a little bit and take the time to listen to that, additional angle, that additional context, that additional consequence, something might be pieced together for you that will uncover a bigger insight or an opportunity for you that you can then use to, your benefit. So they're uncovering connections, right? And how are they doing this themselves? They're doing this themselves because they have an intimate knowledge of something, and one of their key abilities is to be able to map things out and provide detail. Some folks, that's not their strong point. Some folks, detail is like the hardest thing for them. To get them to provide context, detail, and circumstance is something that they're just uncomfortable doing. And in some cases, they might not have the words to do it. Some people might not have the word count to do it, and that's okay too. But they need to get alongside with somebody that does. So, they can bring some things to life. So if let's take a team, right? If there's a team and there's no rambler, no ranter, no thinking out loud type of colleague or associate or teammate, and everyone just getting straight to the point, get straight to the point, and opportunities for innovation will certainly be fewer and far between. Why? Because linear mindsets and trajectories usually go from A to B in a way where midpoints and other points are in line and in scope, whereas the tangent mind, it's still going from A to B. B's further out. There are maybe midpoints, and there are definitely other points in a zigzag and twisted type of trajectory, bringing you all the way to the end. So what does that mean? You'll get to the end, and along the way, you'll be able to see things that maybe you didn't give credence, right? Now, one of the most immediate examples is if you have friends that tell you stories, recount issues, things that happened. There are some people that get straight to the point. They tell you, yeah, this happened, boom, story's over. How about you? What was going on with you? But then you also have folks that will sit there and detail you things. Now, depending on what type of community you've built around you, folks have complexes that make it so sharing more information is a problem. And if most people in that community, in that group, in that team, in that association have developed complexes where sharing more detail is problematic, that's a very limited team. That's a very limited group. That's a shortcoming away from eyes being open to say, wow, what are we doing here? Right? You need that sort of tangent voice to help people see things more broadly, right? And that's again something that I think today, and not even just today, but I'd say historically, but largely today, it's a bit more concentrated and more obvious that the tangent, right, the person kind of going off, is something that's seen almost as a sign of maybe limited intelligence, lack of intelligence, backwardness, and that I would say is far from the truth. Some people who speak in a more linear way, communicate in a more linear way, don't even really understand cause and effect in the way that, in the level that they think they understand cause and effect. If you were to write out, use for my linear communicators, you write out all of, a 5-step plan, a tangent person, tangent thinking person will find an issue with it. That doesn't necessarily mean what you have is wrong, but they'll find an issue with it. And with that issue, in, say, business, where you find issues, there's opportunity for you to make an impact. Any size issue, depending on how big you then blow it up and attack it. So for my folks that do rant, obviously keep ranting, but do it with do it in modesty. Do it in not modesty. Do it in moderation. Yeah, yeah, rant in moderation. But for the folks that maybe run away shy from, having a colleague that does go on the rant, or um has a friend that does that, I would say slow down, think about it differently, allow them every once in a while to go on that tangent, and then you listen and study intently on how they're moving about from point to point, so that you can ask yourself, when I think from point to point, how dynamic am I moving? Because if I'm still moving in a very predictable way that doesn't move the needle in the way, in a sense of I'm not uncovering anything impactful, then I need to be mindful, right? Then I need to be mindful, because again, it's competitive out there. It's only going to get more competitive. You need to be able to do the linear communication thing, but you also need to be able to tap into what benefit comes with the rant or the tangent, right? The tangent will take you from A to B over a course, but it will go in zigzags, different directions. And each point that it arrives at is a different detail. It's a different coordinate pair that will give you a position to then maybe move against or create some sort of opportunity for yourself. And that's, again, expansive thinking. What it looks like on a day to day is you have a problem at work, you're trying to figure it out. You have a friend, colleague, confidant that's a ranter. Yes, a ranter. And you ask them a question related to your problem, and you let them go. You let them go. Do that. Let me know how it goes. Do that. And let me know how it goes. Right. And do that and listen and just do that. Let them go and let me know how it goes. Because if you're listening to them and they're actively processing, verbally processing, moving through, then your brain, which is listening and thinking, will be trying to solve that riddle or puzzle that you had originally, but needed a bit more of a dynamic approach in order to put it all together, right? And that's why we have people with different capabilities as part of teams, as part of our networks. Because if it was just solely about how we thought, then, you know, we'd be pretty limited in that, right? We'd be pretty limited in that because people's perspectives influence directions that we can go in and things that we have to be mindful of as we're building whatever we're building. Shout out to my entrepreneurs out there. All right. So the mathematical piece, again, that's something, Lord willing, I'll get to in the future. Math is a hard science, so I don't want to say anything incorrect with that, but I'm going to work on that diligently in the background. Right. So listen, ask the ranter to rant, and make sense of it. And make sense of it. Right. And make sense of it. Uh, huh. Oh, actually, I had a soccer example written. I don't even know if I want to go over it, but I'll do the soccer example. Actually, I'll do this soccer example. I'll close out right here, but I'll do the soccer example that I wrote out. So this is the example, but I use the soccer context because it just came to mind first, right? Um, I wrote down, right? You go to a friend, you ask them, how was the game? right? So all my people that watch sports, big soccer person. Yeah, so how was the game? You got one person that'll tell you, yeah, it finished 2-1. That's it. You're like, all right, cool. And you're like, bruh, what else? All right. Then you got the other person that'll say, yo, this is the tangent person. They'll be like, yeah, um, they were all wearing these new gold cleats with black laces. The grass was cut horizontally. I saw they got new nets. The coaches now, instead of wearing suits, they're wearing track suits. I noticed this potential transfer, it was in the stands. I noticed that VAR is using these types of cameras. I think that's part of the problem. This goalie just switched his glove, so now he's dropping easily he's dropping crosses that he should be able to collect. This striker put on some weight. That's probably why he didn't turn the corner like that. This midfielder just had a child, but he got to show up. That's probably why he's losing the ball in the midfield, right? They'll go and give you a level of detail, right, that goes beyond just the simple answer of how was the game. The simple answer beyond that overly simple answer I gave earlier, the person will be like, it was a good game. It finished 2-1, right? That versus what the other person would have shared, which is more of like going on a tangent when talking about all these other things that are related but not exact and linear. Those things are in a way help, like if you choose to allow them, those things are things that can help inform how you go about things. So all of those things, right? So boom, take the player, the center midfielder had a kid, maybe he's out of sorts. Boom, sports psychology. That's an avenue. That is a position that they have now. That back in the day, they didn't have sports psychologists working with players. Different thing. The striker putting on some weight can't turn. Boom. That is your dietitians that work with clubs, and now players are able to play even longer. Ronaldo's still playing, and he's like, don't quote me on this. I think Ronaldo might be like 42, about to play in the World Cup. You know, let's take it. The goalkeeper is switched his gloves, and now he's not making the same type of collections, or he's not winning the same aerial duels in the same way. That might then mean a certain material that's in that glove needs to be changed, and boom, you might have an opportunity to make a impact in the market. You have the VAR cameras. Oh, these cameras are ones that don't sense depth in the same way. So when there's multiple players in its sight, it's more likely to lead to um, XYZ amount of offsides, right? And these are just kind of like, out there examples, but that's how it can happen, right? It can happen when you have a business need or business situation that you're actively working through and trying to solve. Bring that to somebody that does, commute in a more tangential way, and they are apt to go here and there and there and there just to help you think through it and ideate. And for sure, you will gain new perspective on how you can approach or tackle that. Now, I'm not saying go if your job's on the line to go do this, but I'd say as long as you're thinking proactively, it could be very beneficial to work with somebody and to allow them to converse with you in a way that brings forward all these different details that can help you piece things together. A lot of people say this. You might be struggling to solve a problem at work. You step away from the computer, you go on a walk, you talk out loud, you go do something else, you go make a drink. By the time you get back to your seat, problem is solved, right? There's not only one way of doing things. So tap in. Appreciate you guys. As always, thank you. Peace. Adios. Until next time. Goodbye.